Hello everyone and welcome back. In this lecture, we'll take a look at two of the what-if analysis features in Microsoft Excel. First, we'll take a look at GoalSeek, and then we'll have a look at the Scenario Manager. Both of these tools will allow us to look at specific scenarios and analyze the impact of changes on our data. For this lecture, we'll use a small dataset containing some information on attendance for a music event. So we have the number of attendees as well as the price per ticket. And with these two pieces of information, we use a basic formula to calculate the total revenue, which is just the number of attendees multiplied by the price per ticket. If you want to follow along with me for this lecture, you can find the spreadsheet in the course content folder inside of the section 4 folder, and it's just called What If Analysis. Okay, our current total revenue sits at $14,800. This is from 370 tickets multiplied by a price of $40 per ticket. And let's say that we need to work out how many tickets we need to sell in order to reach a total revenue of $70,000. We could go through and manually change the number of tickets sold until we reach our required amount, or we could make use of GoalSeek. GoalSeek is a tool in Excel that helps to find the input values needed to achieve a specific goal. And this feature is particularly useful when you have a desired outcome in mind and you want to determine the necessary input to make it happen. So in our case, our desired output is the total revenue of $70,000, and the input is the number of attendees, which is currently 370. We'll go over to the Data tab, and in the Forecast group, we have the What If Analysis button. And if you click on that, you'll see we have three options: Scenario Manager, GoalSeek, and Data Table. For now, we'll go to GoalSeek, as we're looking for a specific value of $70,000. So we want to set our cell, which is in cell B5, which is our total revenue, to the value of 70,000 by changing the tickets sold, which in our case is in cell B3. So you can hit OK, and then OK again, and then Excel will automatically calculate exactly how many tickets we need to sell in order to reach our revenue goal of 70,000. And we can see here that that number is 1,750. Now, this is a very simple example of GoalSeek and only calculates our total revenue, but it doesn't take other factors like variable or fixed costs into account. So let's take a look at another example of GoalSeek that also takes costs into account to work out our profit. Here is another table which includes details on the variable cost as well as our fixed costs. Our variable cost is $14.99 and our fixed costs are $8,000. Our total revenue is still equal to the number of attendees multiplied by the price per ticket, but now we have a new formula which is the total cost, and that's equal to our variable cost multiplied by the number of attendees plus the fixed cost of the event. And then our profit is equal to the total revenue minus the total costs. So we can see here that our profit is less than our total revenue. And let's say that this time we want to see how many tickets we need to sell to reach a profit of $70,000 as opposed to just a revenue. The general process is the same as before. So we'll go to our Data tab, What If Analysis, and then GoalSeek. Well, this time we'll set our cell to be the profit cell, which is cell E10. And again, we want this value to be 70,000, and we'll do this by changing cell E3, which again is our number of attendees. And this time we can see that we need to sell 3,118.75 tickets to reach our profit goal, as opposed to our 1,750 required to meet the same total revenue. But of course, we can't sell 0.75 of a ticket, so you'd have to round this up to 3,119. Let's now take a look at another what-if analysis feature called Scenario Manager. Scenario Manager is another very helpful tool in Excel that allows us to create, manage, and analyze multiple different scenarios for our data. And this feature is particularly handy when dealing with complex models or when you want to compare various what-if situations. So like GoalSeek, Scenario Manager can be found on the Data tab under the What If Analysis button. This time we'll choose Scenario Manager, and this will open the Scenario Manager setup window. To start with, we'll need to create our first scenario. And to do this, we'll click on the Add button over here off to the right. It's a good idea to start by adding in the current values, and you'll see why this is shortly. So we'll add in our scenario name of initial values, and then we need to add in which cells we will be changing. So we can click on this button here, and then click and drag to select our cell range. So we'll be using the number of tickets sold and ticket price from our first GoalSeek example, which was from B3 to B4. and then we'll press enter. You can also add in a comment here if you'd like to describe what the scenario is. So we'll click OK, and then it'll let us enter the value for each of our selected cells. And we want this scenario to be the current values so that we can leave everything as it is by default. And this is just whatever value is currently in that cell. Now that we've added our current value scenario, we'll add our best case scenario, and this will assume we can fill our venue completely with 3,000 people at a price of $140 per ticket. So again, we'll add in our scenario name, which will be best case, and then we'll select our cell range, which was from B3 to B4, and hit OK. And this time, we'll change our first cell value, which is B3, so our number of attendees to be 3,000, and our second cell, which is cell B4, so the price per ticket to be equal to 140, and hit OK. And then finally, we'll add our worst case scenario, which will assume that we only sell 300 tickets at a discounted rate of $20 per ticket. We could add more scenarios here, but we'll stick with 3 for this example. So now that we've created our scenarios, all we have to do is click on each one and either come down here to where it says show, or we can double click on each and now automatically change the cell values for us. So with our initial values, we have a total revenue of $70,000. If we change to our best case scenario, we get $420,000. And if we change to our worst case scenario, we get $12,000. So quite a large range here. If we were to close this window, we'll see that the values do not revert back to their original amounts. And this is why it's a good idea to add a scenario that contains the values for the data as it was initially. If we go back into our scenario manager, all we need to do is select our initial values, and then if we close the window again, everything's back to how it was before we made any changes.